We often underestimate how much old emotional debts can shape our lives. You might think the past is behind you, yet certain wounds keep whispering, influencing your choices, reactions, and even your relationships. Today, we explore a gentle, life-changing approach to dissolving karmic cycles through true forgiveness. The act of forgiving isn't about simply forgetting the pain or excusing someone's wrongdoing. Instead, it's a way of releasing the burden you've carried, sometimes for years, so you can fully step into your power. Imagine looking at your life from a higher vantage point, noticing patterns that keep repeating. Maybe you've experienced the same disappointment in romantic relationships, or perhaps you keep finding yourself in jobs where you feel underappreciated. If you trace these situations to their core, you might find a recurring emotional thread, a deep imprint left by old hurts or regrets. These unresolved experiences don't just remain in the past. They create energetic loops we call karmic cycles. When you bring your attention to these loops, you realize they are not random, nor are they inescapable. They're simply reflections of unprocessed feelings. And that's where forgiveness enters as a shining remedy. Forgiveness is that benevolent tool that cuts through the tangled cords binding you to past negativity. It doesn't mean invalidating your pain or pretending that injustices never occurred. Rather, it allows you to stand in a place of compassion for yourself and for anyone involved. This shift in energy transforms your mental and emotional landscape, clearing up space for new beginnings. As we move through this video, we will explore practical ways to break free from karmic cycles and show you that forgiveness can be gentle, even if it feels intimidating at first. By learning to forgive, you dissolve toxic attachments that continually pull your spirit down. You give yourself the loving permission to evolve, unchained by resentment or guilt. Here, you'll learn how to recognize the karmic threads tying you to repetitive emotional states. Through daily practices like mirror work, affirmations, and introspective journaling, you'll gain insights into the power you hold to change these patterns. We'll delve deeper into how the body and mind are interwoven and how persistent negative emotions can manifest in physical discomfort if not addressed. Finally, we'll wrap up with a reminder that you can extend compassion to your own soul, healing old layers of pain without condoning destructive behavior from others. Think of this moment as an invitation. Release what you've been clutching, those bitter memories, those lingering regrets, and allow yourself to be free. You deserve the peace that comes when you truly let go. With every step we take together, you'll uncover the lightness of your spirit as karmic burdens melt away. When you feel ready, step into the next section, where we'll clarify what karmic cycles are and why they're so significant in your journey to wholeness. Karma, in its simplest form, signifies cause and effect. The energy we send out returns to us in some shape or form. When we speak of karmic cycles, we're referring to patterns that seem to repeat themselves in our emotional, physical, or spiritual experiences. These cycles often feel cyclical, as if you're replaying the same conflicts, heartbreaks, or disappointments. On the surface, the events may look different, a new job, a new person in your life, but the emotional resonance echoes a familiar pain. This repetition doesn't happen because life wants to punish you. Rather, it's a signal from your inner wisdom that something remains unresolved. Imagine these karmic cycles as notes in a musical composition that keep popping up off-key, subtly reminding you to address them. Until you tune that note correctly, it keeps resurfacing in your life's soundtrack. Many people feel frustrated when the same challenges appear, but it's a form of cosmic guidance, beckoning you toward greater awareness and healing. Recent discussions across social platforms frequently revolve around soul ties or energetic bonds that form between individuals. Some interpret these connections as cosmic attachments that can follow you across different experiences or even lifetimes. Whether or not you resonate with those concepts, what's undeniable is the emotional resonance that lingers from unresolved conflicts. These unprocessed feelings imprint onto your consciousness, creating an energetic blueprint that influences your present moments. Sometimes, karmic cycles also manifest as inherited or generational patterns. You might notice how certain traits or trauma seem to pass down through family lines, like a persistent fear, a limiting belief around success, or even a tendency to sabotage one's happiness. Awareness of these deeper threads is transformative. The moment you recognize them, you can become the point of change. You have the power to discontinue a cycle that has run through your lineage for decades, maybe even centuries. Recognizing a karmic cycle isn't about blame. It's about liberation. When you notice a pattern of negative self-talk or recurrent situations that leave you feeling powerless, ask yourself, what am I supposed to learn here? This question, simple yet profound, opens the door to self-inquiry. Maybe you need to learn healthy boundaries, or perhaps you need to cultivate deeper self-love. Karmic lessons point directly to where you can grow. Know that no pattern is set in stone. Once you identify a cycle, you've taken the most vital step, shining light into the darkness. From this place of clarity, you can consciously rewire your reactions and beliefs. This is where the journey of gentle forgiveness begins in earnest. Instead of labeling yourself a victim of the past, you shift your perspective to that of a willing student. The cycle reveals itself so you can heal. In the next section, we'll explore how forgiveness is not only a release from old burdens, but also a potent act of personal empowerment and emotional alchemy. Forgiveness often gets confused with weakness or naivety. Some worry that if they forgive, it might invalidate their suffering or let another person off the hook. In reality, forgiveness is not about condoning harmful behavior. It's an act of emotional freedom that allows you to no longer be tethered to the pain. When you forgive, you reclaim the energy once used to keep that hurt alive. Think of forgiveness as a tender, nurturing practice that first and foremost benefits your own well-being. It's the steady breath that calms your restless mind, the soothing voice that encourages you to release tightness in your heart. Though it may be challenging at the beginning, gentle forgiveness can do wonders to dissolve the tension fueling a karmic cycle. Imagine it as letting go of a rope you've been tugging on for years. The moment you release your grip, the strain on your hands and mind subsides. If you need a tangible first step, consider speaking aloud an affirmation like, "I forgive you, and in doing so, I set myself free." Some find it helpful to visualize the person or situation that caused them pain, surrounding it with soft light. This light isn't about excusing whatever happened. Rather, it represents your choice to move beyond the pain and anchor yourself in compassion. It might feel awkward or forced at first, especially if the wound is deep. However, with practice, your internal resistance to forgiveness tends to loosen. Another misconception is that forgiveness must be extended all at once. In truth, forgiveness can be a gradual process, a day-by-day or even moment-by-moment choice. On certain mornings, you might feel so liberated by your new mindset that you can't imagine ever revisiting old resentments. Then, later in the day, a reminder or trigger might tug at the wound, making forgiveness seem distant again. Recognize that this ebb and flow is natural. You are human, and the healing journey has its waves. What matters is your commitment to continue softening into forgiveness, not because the other person deserves it, but because you deserve peace. When you engage with forgiveness gently, you also start dissolving the energetic attachments that feed karmic cycles. You remove the fuel that keeps these patterns alive. And as you do so, you'll notice new mental space opening for creativity, joy, and deeper self-understanding. An unexpected bonus arises too. As you practice forgiving others, you become kinder toward yourself. When we hold on to resentment, we often harbor self-judgment in parallel, believing we should have seen it coming or done something differently. Through the act of forgiving externally, you mirror that same softness inward. This synergy of releasing both external resentment and internal guilt can be transformative, and it prepares you for the next step. Understanding how emotions influence your body and spirit in ways you might not have imagined. Your body is a miraculous reflection of your inner world. When you harbor unresolved anger, guilt, or shame, these emotions don't remain confined to your mind. They can seep into your physical being, contributing to tension, fatigue, and even lingering aches. Similarly, your spirit, your intangible essence, feels the weight of these dense emotions. If you've ever experienced that heavy-hearted sensation, you've felt the direct impact your emotional state has on your body and soul. Think of your body and spirit as co-creators of your life experience. Whenever you hold grudges or replay hurtful memories, a subtle stress response may kick in. It's as if your body remains on alert, bracing itself for a threat that's long gone. Over time, such constant vigilance wears you down, weakening your immune system and clouding your mental clarity. This phenomenon forms one of the core reasons why dissolving karmic cycles is so crucial. Old emotional wounds can literally drain your vitality if left unaddressed. But there's good news. Your mind, body, and spirit are equally capable of embracing healing once you set that intention. Picture the warm glow of a sunrise spreading through your chest whenever you practice a gentle affirmation like, "I let go of what no longer serves me." By repeating these soothing words, you signal your entire being, physical cells, energetic field, and subconscious mind, that it's safe to release tension. You begin retraining your stress response to interpret forgiveness as an act of liberation instead of vulnerability. As you become more aware of how emotions influence physical health, you may notice patterns. You might detect that certain unresolved issues make your shoulders tighten or your stomach ache. This is your body's language, speaking to you through sensations. Learning to pay attention to these cues is not meant to instill fear or create self-criticism. Rather, it's an invitation to cultivate self-compassion. Each physical signal, can be interpreted as a gentle reminder that something needs your loving attention. Spiritually, you might find that carrying a heavy emotional load dims your sense of connection, both with yourself and with the greater universe. When resentment or regret looms large, it can overshadow moments of wonder, gratitude, and creative inspiration. That's why the path of forgiveness doesn't stop with improving mood or bodily well-being. It extends to revitalizing the soul's innate capacity to feel joyful and free. In the next section, we'll delve into how to practice self-compassion as a direct route to breaking karmic cycles. Because once you recognize how powerfully your emotions can shape your reality, you'll see why it's essential to cultivate softness, kindness, and a nurturing attitude toward yourself first and foremost. This approach will pave the way for profound shifts, not just in your emotional state, but in your relationships, your health, and the way you approach life's twists and turns. Self-compassion stands as one of the most profound gateways to dissolving karmic ties. Often people believe that healing begins by fixing external circumstances. Yet true transformation arises when you nurture the relationship you have with yourself. If you've been trapped in a repetitive cycle, like attracting similar conflicts or struggling with persistent self-doubt, it's typically rooted in deeper emotional patterns. Self-compassion invites you to address these internal roots with tenderness instead of judgment. Here's a powerful exercise. When the sting of past mistakes flares up, place a hand over your heart and offer yourself reassuring words. You might say, "I am doing my best, and I choose to learn from this with kindness." Such a simple gesture can dissolve layers of harsh self-criticism that feed the karmic loop. Each time you offer yourself empathy, you weaken the negative narrative that perpetuates suffering. In essence, you break the chain link by link. Mirror work is a wonderful practice here. Stand before a mirror, look into your own eyes, and speak words of encouragement or apology, whichever you need. At first, it can feel awkward. We're so accustomed to directing compassion toward loved ones while overlooking our own pain. But as you persist, you'll notice a shift. Your reflection no longer feels like a stranger. You begin to see that the person in front of you deserves the same warmth you readily give others. Self-compassion also involves acknowledging that pain or perceived failure is part of being human. There's no shame in feeling wounded. There's no shame in experiencing a setback. The real question is, how do you respond to that wound? Do you berate yourself for not being stronger, or do you gently hold space for healing? The latter approach, holding space for your own emotions, dismantles the internal harshness that often extends outward into karmic patterns. A soft interior world fosters softer external interactions, reducing the chances of conflict. Through self-compassion, you also set a powerful example for how others might treat you. When you embody kindness toward your own vulnerabilities, you naturally communicate to the world that you value respect and empathy. In turn, you start attracting healthier relationships and situations. This shift might not happen overnight, but each small act of self-compassion fuels the momentum toward a kinder reality. Breaking free from karmic chains is less about forcibly ripping them apart and more about gradually dissolving their energy through consistent care for your inner self. It's a gentle but intentional approach that yields lasting change. Once you anchor self-compassion in your daily life, forgiving others becomes less of a challenge. Your heart expands, and the standard you set for emotional well-being rises. Soon, you'll realize that holding on to resentment no longer aligns with the loving atmosphere you've cultivated within. This naturally leads us into the next section, where we explore transforming resentment into loving detachment, another cornerstone of releasing karmic cycles. Resentment can feel like a ball of tangled energy lodged in your chest, perpetually zapping your joy. It ties you to the very person or situation you wish you could forget. If self-compassion loosens the knots you hold against yourself, loving detachment helps you loosen the knots you hold against others. Detachment doesn't mean becoming indifferent or cold. Rather, it's about consciously deciding not to carry someone else's emotional baggage on your journey. When resentment grips you, it often stems from a sense of injustice or betrayal. The mind replays the hurtful scenario, fueling anger and reinforcing a belief that you must hold on to this feeling to validate your pain. However, in reality, resentment only prolongs your suffering. Detaching with love allows you to acknowledge the pain, accept the lessons, and step away without bitterness. It's like returning the baggage of that memory to its rightful place in the past, so you can walk forward unencumbered. Consider a simple visualization to aid in loving detachment. Close your eyes and picture the person or event that you associate with your resentment. Now, imagine gently wrapping this situation in a soft, luminous cloth. Inhale deeply, sending calming energy into your heart space, and exhale while you mentally place the wrapped memory on a cloud or a current of water. Watch as it drifts away, not in anger, but in calm acceptance. Tell yourself, I send this away with respect for the lesson it brought me. Interestingly, spiritual circles on various social media platforms have popularized the concept of cutting cords. This practice aligns well with loving detachment. By cutting cords, you symbolically release unhelpful energetic ties that keep you entangled in old grievances. Whether you prefer the cloud imagery, water imagery, or cord cutting, the core objective remains: to free yourself from entangling resentments so you can regain emotional equilibrium. Keep in mind, loving detachment isn't an overnight fix. Sometimes you'll successfully detach for days or weeks, only to feel the old bitterness resurface. When that happens, see it not as a failure, but as another chance to practice unconditional love for yourself and for your own healing journey. Acknowledge that emotional wounds can flare up unexpectedly, and renewing your commitment to detachment is part of the cyclical but progressive path of transformation. This practice also benefits your relationships. When you stop carrying resentment, you create space to relate to others with clarity and genuine care. Even if certain relationships aren't meant to continue, your sense of peace and composure remains intact. That's the essence of karmic resolution, stepping out of cyclical bitterness and into a neutral, loving awareness. In the next section, we'll move on to practical tools and techniques to ensure these principles become a lived reality, not just theoretical concepts. Awareness alone can spark the desire for change, yet concrete actions ensure that desire transforms into reality. Think of this section as a toolbox filled with various methods you can select and apply at your own pace. Each tool, practiced with consistency, helps loosen the knots of repetitive karmic cycles. Start or end each day by speaking out loud a simple affirmation, such as, I release all that weighs on my spirit, and I open myself to healing. If this phrase doesn't resonate with you, adapt your own words. The key is to create a statement that you can fully believe, or at least aspire to believe. Over time, affirmations become self-fulfilling prophecies, reshaping your internal dialogue. Pouring your thoughts onto paper can be remarkably cathartic. Dedicate 10 to 15 minutes a day to write about persistent patterns or resentments. Don't censor yourself. Let the words flow. This process can unveil hidden triggers that you may not have fully acknowledged. Follow up each journaling session by writing a forgiving or loving statement. For instance, I see my pain on paper and I choose to release it. Visual tools, like imagining a healing light enveloping old wounds, can drastically reduce the emotional charge around painful memories. Spending just a few minutes visualizing yourself walking free from past burdens can reinforce the subconscious belief that healing is attainable. Some people add soft music or nature sounds to deepen this experience. Breathing exercises are deceptively powerful. When you consciously regulate your breath, say, inhaling for a count of 4, holding for 4, exhaling for 4, you anchor your mind in the present moment. This quiet focus makes it easier to observe thoughts without judgment and let go of internal tension. Over time, mindful breathing can become a grounding routine whenever you feel old resentment stirring. A symbolic gesture, such as writing down what you wish to forgive on a slip of paper and then safely burning it, can provide a potent sense of closure. The brain often responds strongly to tangible acts, reinforcing the intangible decision to move forward. If burning doesn't suit you, consider burying the paper or tearing it into pieces. The point is to see, feel, and acknowledge that the old grievance no longer has a place in your present life. As you explore these tools, consistency matters more than perfection. You don't need to use them all. Pick the ones that resonate most strongly and practice them regularly. This is how karmic patterns begin to dissolve, not through one grand gesture, but through small, steady acts of devotion to your own well-being. By integrating these methods, you'll start noticing subtle shifts in how you think, feel, and react. Over time, these changes become more pronounced, signaling that the grip of old cycles is loosening. In the next section, we'll address an essential component of healing: personal responsibility for your emotional landscape and the patterns you choose to keep or release. A significant turning point in dismantling karmic cycles is realizing that you hold the power to shape your experience. This doesn't mean blaming yourself for every hardship or injustice that's occurred. Rather, it implies recognizing that the way you respond to life's challenges plays a pivotal role in either reinforcing or dissolving those repeating patterns. By stepping into personal responsibility, you transform from a passive bystander into an active participant in your spiritual journey. When you take ownership of your healing, you also acknowledge your capacity for choice. Even if someone or something has caused you pain, you decide how that pain will influence your present and future. Will you let it become the root of perpetual resentment, or will you use it as soil to grow compassion and inner strength? Embracing responsibility means choosing to cultivate the positive aspects that can emerge from adversity, rather than letting negativity dictate your emotional climate. This shift in perspective can be incredibly empowering. Instead of feeling trapped or victimized by life circumstances, you begin to see each challenge as a teacher. Suppose you find yourself frequently drawn into arguments with a close friend or family member. Ask yourself what you might be contributing to the dynamic. Are you harboring unspoken expectations or triggers? Are you replaying old wounds instead of addressing them head-on? The answers may not be comfortable, but they'll guide you toward deeper self-awareness and an opportunity for change. Some people resist this step because they fear it means blaming themselves. To clarify, taking responsibility is not about self-condemnation, it's about self-empowerment. It helps you see where your own thought patterns, beliefs, or actions might be feeding a karmic cycle. Once identified, these factors can be consciously shifted. This approach stands in stark contrast to the notion of externalizing all problems, assuming everything is someone else's fault. While it can feel easier to pin blame on others, that mindset often leaves you powerless to instigate meaningful transformation. Another valuable aspect of personal responsibility is discernment. As you become more in tune with your own emotional landscape, you gain the clarity to determine which relationships or situations align with your highest good. This might mean setting boundaries or stepping away from toxic patterns that no longer serve you. By doing so, you actively steer your life away from the possibility of re-entering harmful loops. Ultimately, seeing yourself as the steward of your karmic healing opens doors you never realized were there. You reclaim your autonomy and discover that empowerment is more fulfilling than victimhood. As you make daily choices, like practicing forgiveness, affirming your worth, and releasing old grudges, you shape a new and uplifting narrative. In the final conclusion of this video, we'll revisit our core themes and seal your journey with one last encouraging affirmation. Get ready to step fully into this new chapter of freedom and clarity. We've traveled through the inner workings of karmic cycles, explored the healing power of forgiveness, and uncovered the vital importance of self-compassion and personal responsibility. Every step in this journey reveals that you are far more powerful than your history might have led you to believe. Repetitive patterns are not life sentences. They are invitations to evolve. By consciously recognizing and releasing old energetic ties, you free yourself to write a new story, one guided by compassion, wisdom, and deep inner peace. Healing isn't about denying that pain ever existed. Rather, it's about transforming that pain into understanding. Forgiveness and loving detachment do not erase what happened. They rewrite the emotional script, allowing your heart to remain open to love and insight rather than closed off by bitterness. This shift benefits not only you, but also everyone around you. When you align with forgiveness, the ripple effect of your elevated energy can touch friends, family, and even strangers in subtle but meaningful ways. Remember, each technique we discussed, from affirmations and visualizations to mindful breathing and symbolic release, serves as a tool to deepen your process. Use them in a way that feels authentic. If one method doesn't resonate, experiment with another. The true measure of success lies in your willingness to remain consistent, patient, and gentle with yourself. Real transformation often unfolds gradually, like a seed sprouting through the soil. As you move forward, hold this final affirmation close. I release old patterns and welcome a future guided by love. Speak these words whenever you sense the weight of past hurt. Let them anchor you in the present and reassure you that you're capable of embracing freedom from any burden you once carried. Extend this forgiveness to others too, remembering that the act of letting go is a precious gift you give yourself. When old memories resurface, meet them with compassion, notice them, accept them, and let them pass through you rather than define you. By dissolving karmic cycles through gentle forgiveness, you step into a realm where each new experience can be greeted with a clear and open heart. You allow greater love, abundance, and harmony to enter your life. This doesn't mean challenges will never appear, but it does mean that you'll face them with grace and insight rather than fear and resentment. Gradually, you'll become less weighed down by the past and more inspired by the infinite potential of each present moment. Take a moment now to breathe deeply and sense the lightness that comes from releasing old constraints. Feel the warmth of knowing you have all you need within you to continue this journey. Whether you revisit these sections or explore new spiritual practices, the essence remains the same. You are both worthy and capable of freeing yourself from cyclical pain. Step forward with confidence. Your path of gentle forgiveness and renewed self-love is paving the way for an extraordinary future, one where your heart is unburdened and your spirit can truly soar.